The reason why I call this the SWAT house is because this was my first deal that I ever did from a wholesaler. All my deals prior to this I found on my own, negotiated on my own. And I was like, hey, let's take a chance. So I go to look at the property, and I drive up. There's cameras on trees. There's cameras, if you can see from the red, there's cameras all over the house, all around the house. Even on the inside, there's cameras all on the inside. There's locks on all the doors. I'm like, whew, this is a little interesting. I later find out that this property was rated by SWAT. But what's ironic enough is this property also was the #1 Christmas decorated house every single year for like 10 years in a row. So there used to be cars lined up and police directing traffic to look at this home every Christmas. So I'm not sure about the correlation there, but who knows. So on the 15-minute walkthrough, I went ahead and put an offer in, and then it was accepted. I knew my numbers before I went. I knew my comps. I knew where I needed to be. So all about due diligence, right? So made the offer, it was accepted, and went ahead and got an appraisal, a third-party appraisal. So the third-party appraisal came back, and there was a 512 square foot discrepancy in what was represented by the wholesaler to what was the actual. So I was faced with, okay, I have $5,000 in this, I'm gonna renegotiate. I made an offer based on $52.28 price per square foot. You told me that this house was $37.49. It's not. Here's the information. So guess what? We're gonna renegotiate. I'm still paying $52.28 price per square foot, and that brought the sales price down to $169. Interesting situation. What happened is, they kind of wanted to put me on hold. They were remarketing the property, trying to get a higher price. And I made the call and I said, hey guys, listen. I said, you have my offer. I'm ready to close. I'm good for it. I will be rescinding my offer today if it's not accepted, and you can move on down the road. They ended up accepting the offer that day. So stage 1 on the systems that I go through, backtracking a little bit, when I walked the property for 15 minutes, I go through my repair estimator. Very, very quickly, I'm able to add up costs. And so my initial 15-minute walkthrough, I came in at about $100,000 in repairs, and then I also put a 15% contingency because we all know there's always surprises. And in this particular property, there's a wraparound porch. And in me estimating it, I guesstimated about 5%. I later had my contractor who'd worked on multiple projects with me come, and he's like, yeah, between $5,000, $7,000. We were completely wrong once we got in there, so I'll talk a little bit more about that. But my all-in budget with the contingency was a little over $115,000. So I'm very detailed on scopes of work. I also pick all the finishes, and then I put that in a spreadsheet. And the reason why I do that is because this is so important in the bidding process and controlling your costs. So that's always something I spend quite a bit of time on. Stage 3 is the contractor bidding. I do have several contractors that I've worked with day in and day out. Very, very good relationship. But I gotta keep them on their toes. So of course, anytime I meet somebody new and I like their personality and what they represent, and from a business perspective, we're gonna put that out there to them. I do look at dollar figures, but the bottom line is it's relationship, it's delivery of service, and do you do what you say that you're gonna do? So I always do a kickoff meeting, the scope of work. I always have a code of honor posted on site. A lot of neighbors have come up to me and thanked me for this sign because it talks about, no arguing, loud music. And it's very important to me that my contractors represent me and my company and have respect for the neighborhood. I even had a neighbor come up to me at one of my locations and was very thankful for that, and he passed on another lead to me, and we ended up closing on that property as well. So let's get into the numbers. One of the things that's really important to me is always knowing my numbers. I know everybody does things a little bit differently, but as long as we have the same end result, that's what matters. So in this particular rehab that I'm talking about, or redevelopment, wherever Steve's standing, it came in at $36.74 was the price per square foot with holding costs for the overall rehab. So a few of the before and after pictures. So this was the actual Christmas house. And you can see starting out, and I say this very, very respectfully, but they had a lot of things, and they didn't get rid of a lot of things for quite some time. And I think we had 4 different dumpsters. And then you can see the after. The porch, that's what we guesstimated. My guesstimation was about $5,000 to $6,000. My contractor who walked it said between $5,000 and $7,000, all in $23,000. So here's the kitchen before and after. It turned out phenomenal. I was in love with it. And I'm a little negotiator, so I found a Viking cooktop that I got for, probably $1,500 under what the actual purchase price was. But negotiation, bulk business, it's part of the business. Some more shots of the bathroom. The shower, it was, they didn't even have a tub. And then we did the freestanding tub, shower, and it was amazing. It overlooked the actual backyard. So let's give a very simplistic overview of the timeline and stats. So the purchase price on this house was over $169,000. The initial estimated budget without holding costs was over $115,000. The actual with holding costs, utilities, staging, listing pictures, over $118,000. Now, the interesting situation that I took a little bit of a risk, and I don't recommend this for anybody. Everybody has, their own buying criteria and models. But the ARV, the after repair value appraisal, came back on this property between $300,000 and $315,000. So the numbers did not work initially. But based on my intuition, due diligence, and knowing the area, I decided personally for me, I wanted to take this risk. Could have paid off, could have not. In the end, it did. List price was $369,000. I sold over ask price at $370,000. This was during the height of COVID. So it was interesting, had to go through 2 different appraisals, like banks were shutting down. It got a little scary because I had some money tied up in this property. And then the return on investment was right at 28. I mentioned that I did take some money to closing. So the seller's, or pardon me, not the seller's disclosure, the CD, the check cut to me was right under $120,000. So I had to take my costs that I took to closing back out of that, and profit was a little over $80,000. Last thing I mentioned earlier, the fear. So I keep going back to this because I have 2 favorite books. One book from the time that I was probably 15 or 16 years old, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyways. All-time favorite book. I will probably reread it several times for the rest of my life. But there's one quote that always stood out to me. Deep down inside, you were terrified of taking risks. You really wanted to win, but the fear of losing was greater than the excitement of winning. Deep inside you, and only you, will know you didn't go for it. You choose to play it safe. And in my head, when I feel like I'm playing it safe and I feel that fear, I always reference back to this quote. And I have to get out of my comfort zone, and I have to go for it, and I have to take that risk and move forward in life. Also, the book Execution, that's been a driving force in my life as well. Thank you.